My name is Joost Vandecasteele. I am a writer, a screenwriter, half of the time. I did some stand-up comedy. I did some theater. I did some television, and now, obviously, I'm entering the fascinating world of games. So there was this competition, and they asked uh, to come up with an idea, and that's how I met Happy Volcano. They they had this beautiful visuals. I was immediately blown away, but you felt there was kind of a darkness hidden behind the cutesiness, and that's how we got it started. So I was fascinated, I was intrigued, and so I feel like what I bring to the table in this project was a world, and a kind of experience of a dark fantasy, and dark characters. I've always been fascinated by games and kind of the philosophy of games. You can explore a whole universe or a whole world, or mostly in a whole city, but you don't have to. That's a luxury you don't have in a book. A book is very straightforward. You go to A to B to C all the way to the end, and every detail is shoved in the face of the reader. But in a game world, you don't know if he or she came from door number 2 or door number 14. So you cannot assume anything. You have to be uh, mysterious. You have to be intriguing. You have to be, maybe a better word is, you have to be subtle. And you have to be also alluring. You have to always keep seducing the player to go further. And what's behind door number 14? What's behind door number 8,000? So every level, or in the case of the Almost Gone, every tile should be a kind of prelude to the next tile. And I always wanted to be able to write economically, to write something that doesn't explain everything, that lives below the surface. So working on this game, that was really a challenge, to be intriguing enough, to be mysterious enough without being pedantic or without being too weird, but just give enough, just enough. You have to consider the player as an ally in this quest, and not just as some passive audience. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, and things like death, things like lies, things like puberty, things like violence, but that's just symptoms of something bigger. And so the theme of the story is, are you responsible for the actions of your parents and their parents and their parents? Everybody comes into this world with excess luggage, with something that already defines you. And during a lifetime, you have to break free of your own past, of your own family. And that can be difficult, certainly if that is a really brutal upbringing or a brutal past. So the main theme for me is, it sounds corny, I know, but just be yourself, and cut yourself loose from everything that puts you down or is not helpful. So the main focus of this game is, who are you without all these restraints that's keeping you down? We wanted to tell something very emotional, and we wanted to create a character that felt real, even though you couldn't see the character itself, it was kind of more a monologue, a voice inside somebody's head. You know, you can have in a game, you can have the most wild and the most terrifying ideas or images, but sometimes they just feel empty if you just see it on a screen, or if you rely on jump scares. It's just it's so superficial sometimes. But if you can create a character that feels real, if you can create a character that feels like somebody who you know in a way, who you feel like is growing, is maturing during the game, then you feel this connection, and then you're as a player, you want to know how it ends. So the story changed because the character changed, and that was always the main focus: to create a character that felt like a human being, like a three-dimensional human being, and not purely as a game character. The collaboration felt natural, but not easy. There's a big difference between easy and natural. I never asked, I never asked the studio, I never asked Happy Volcano how it should go. So we kind of went instinctively, and now to look back on it, it kind of felt like this is how it should be, to just write, and then erase until only the best ideas and the best sentences are kept. It was a long period where we had to cut a lot of things. It was a long period where we had to be really strict with uh, what we can show, what we can tell. But inside that really strict guidelines, I think we were able to create something different.